Going on YouTube, Cloverbell's here back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be recapping the Knoxville Regionals that took place over this past weekend. So we're just going to go over some key takeaways and results, hence the title of the video, and make some foreshadowing and predictions that could lead up into the next regionals, which I believe is Charlotte. So we'll take a look at the results and see some interesting Pokemon of choice and some play styles, some team archetypes. But you can already see some of that in the top 8 results over here. So we'll talk about Justin Tang's team in a minute. That was the winner. But just from some of the top 8 results over here, first of all, Lily Cole from Nick Navarre, that was also something out of left field. Didn't expect that to be within the top 8. But Nick made a call within the meta, and he was correct and did very, very well. So shout outs to Nick over there. If you look over at number 2 with Aaron Clemens, again, that is a Murkrow Garchomp kind of core. Murkrow kind of fell off in, pretty much in Series 2, but then if you look at the top cut results, there was only one Murkrow in the top 55, and here it is in top 4. So shout outs to Aaron for making that kind of call with Garchomp over there. And then if you look at Carson Copper, there is a Flamigo there with, of course, the Dondozo kind of team. So that's a little unexpected, but I guess it makes sense. We know what Flamigo could do. So very, very interesting top 8, right? There's some mons here that you normally wouldn't be expecting to see, but then here it is. And then we can't forget Wolf Glick's team, right? The Iron Jugulus. So that one was very interesting, and that is I believe that's the same team that won the Bochum Regionals from Marcus Statter. So shout outs to Marcus again, and Wolf Glick tried to do the same justice, but again, top 8 results is also very, very impressive. But it just goes to show you, right? If certain Paradox Pokemon have specific niches, and if you're able to exploit that and put it on the right team, they can do very, very well. And so Wolf Glick realized that, and hence the top cut results. So again, some interesting Pokemon here, as we said. But now what we're gonna do is take a look at first the champions team, and then we'll take a look at some overall trends and results that we saw from the rest of the tournament. All right, so let's get to it. Okay, so if you want to take a look at someone's teams as far as like open team sheets, you're able to do that with the VGC Pace repository. They already have all the Knoxville teams posted. So once again, quick shout out to Evan Smoke and the guys and gals over there for doing God's justice, doing God's work here by putting all of these PokePaste together. So this way, videos like ours is possible. So shout out to them. We'll link their Twitter in the video description below. But here, we'll take a look at Justin's teams first. So if we click this, we'll be able to see his open sheets. And again, shout outs to Justin for doing relatively well. Oh, let me make this smaller. Actually, the format is not so great. But as you can see, with Justin, first of all, a little bit of background, with him based on what we've seen. I believe it was his first regional. He was only playing for like a year and a half competitively, and then he decided to take his talents to Knoxville, and lo and behold, he ended up being the winner, right? So shout outs to Justin, and again, if you want to follow him, just click on his Twitter and you should be able to follow him. But this is my favorite kind of Parish team. Basically, again, the Gothitelle Fluttermane Parish with the balance of the good stuff. You still have the Arcanine Amoonguss for defensive backbone. Then you have the Palafin, and again, this is Palafin's, I believe, 3rd straight regional where it's able to claim victory. Barring the overseas stuff. But again, Palafin's doing really, really well despite all the hype with the Iron Bundle stuff. But it's just like not even like hard Parish. It's just like a very, very balanced kind of team, right? You have the Iron Hands with safety goggles here. With Swords Dance pressure, which is really, really nice. So that also can be benefited with the redirection support with the Amoonguss. And again, with the Palafin Haze, that's like for the Dondozo stuff, and also just to eliminate other Swords Dance, other nasty plots potentially. The Arcanine, of course, is just a regular supportive Arcanine with extreme speed rather than Snarl. So that's also a play there, just to be able to pick up and snipe some KOs. And of course, you can see a lot of protects here. 5 of the 6 mods have protect, which is expected whenever you're playing like a secondary Parish kind of team. And from what I understand, I don't think Justin clicked Parish all that much throughout the tournament, but he clicked it within the finals and also within the top cut stuff, right? So it just goes to show you don't have to use Parish if you don't need to, but when you do need it, when it matters most, it's always there and it is available. And shout outs to Justin for pulling through with this kind of team. But again, with the Gothitelle trapping with Shadow Tag, again, which is fake out pressure, one type of attack, with Psychic, and then of course just protect and Trick Room. So some speed control over there. So this way you can like flip those Tailwind teams upside their head. Makes a lot of sense. And again, with just the Palafin being able to pivot in and out, you can get 0 to hero relatively easily. and then, just trap opponents in and just deal a bunch of damage with the Mystic Water boost. It just makes a lot of sense here. And then the Arcanine again can also just burn things, so this way they're doing reduced damage, not picking up the KOs. So this way you can always keep on pivoting in and out. And then, again, just dealing big damage with like the Swords Dance pressure from the Iron Hands over here. Potentially like trying to catch opponents, like maybe even pivoting out on their own, or trying to like protect stuff. You can just go for a greedy Swords Dance, call those reads, and then just get a free Swords Dance pressure right off of there. All right, so shout out to Justin, really cool balanced Paris team. It just makes a lot of sense. And now what we're gonna do is take a look at certain other teams and archetypes. But again, this type of team is not going away. You're gonna see this again moving forward in March. You're gonna see this in other regionals. It's a common 6. It's been used before. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And if you want to try a balanced Paris team, just use something like Justin's team over here. He's not the first to try and build this type of 6 with Paris, and he won't be the last either. But if you want to pick it up, definitely consider this type of build. It just makes a lot of sense. All right. So now let's take a look at the rest of the tournament. Okay, the first thing I want to look at is the Dragonite Dominance within the Knoxville Regional, and I expect to see this moving forward into Charlotte and some other tournaments after this one. Basically, if you look at the top cut results, and not even just top cut results, even the 6-3 records that got CP but didn't manage to make the top 55, like there is so much Dragonite over here, and for good reason. And there's a couple of common sets that people are using, but basically you're just a bulky dominant sweeper that doesn't really rely on speed control because you have the power of extreme speed. And there's a couple of sets that are a little bit more common right now. First of all, there's a Lumberry set, and then there's an Assault Vest set. And interestingly enough, multi-scale is a little bit more preferred at the moment over Inner Focus, just because, it allows you to take one big super effective attack, and then, you just sit there, take that attack, and then deal big damage right back. And that's a little bit more important and a little bit more favorable as opposed to getting faked out or getting intimidated. It really depends on the player and on how they want to use it, but if you're going for something like Dragon Dance or Tailwind, and you're afraid of getting knocked out, it's hard to try and set that up. But with multi-scale, at the very least, you can mitigate some of that damage a little bit. So in terms of like the move sets, 3 of them are mostly the same with the Lumberry or the Assault Vest set. You're gonna have extreme speed either way. I think Terra Blast and then Ice Spinner are like the mainstays within either set. So let's just go ahead and add that here. But the main difference is that 4th move. Where is that one? Ice Spinner. Okay. And over here with the Lumberry set, you're either running Protect, just straight up, or you're running something like Tailwind just to give your team extra speed control. And you might even see like Inner Focus over here just so that you can't get faked out for that reason. Or you might see something like Dragon Dance, all right, with the Lumberry. So this way, if they want to spore you or burn you just because you're dealing so much damage with Dragon Dance, they can't really do that because at the very least you can kind of mitigate that, at least for one turn with the Lumberry. So you might see variations of those Lumberry sets, but as far as the Assault Vest, over here you're just probably going to see Low Kick, which is good into like the Steel types, just to deal a bunch of damage, especially like those heavier targets like Dondozo. It's going to take like 50%, depending on how much, investment you're going to be using. But either way, these are like the 2 common sets with some variance in this 4th move. Either it's Tailwind, Dragon Dance, or Protect. And we can kind of see that just as a couple of examples within like the cut results. So let's look at Nick Navarre's team. He has a Dragonite as well. Yeah, see, it's Extreme Speed, Protect, Terra Blast, Ice Spinner, multi-scale. With this kind of team, yeah, it makes a lot of sense here. Just snipe a couple kills after Torkoal, clicks Eruption, or even before that, just deal a bunch of damage. Sword the Eruption can pick up. Then if we go down the list here, let's look at Marco's team over here. This is a Tailwind set, right? So he decided to keep the multi-scale, but again, still Lumberry, but you still have Tailwind over here. Makes a lot of sense. You benefit the Great Tusk, the Fluttermane, and the Iron Bundle with the Tailwind support. So that's okay. And then over here, if you look at Brady's team, I believe this was a Dragon Dance set with Stomping Tantrum, ground coverage. Okay, I can't stress enough how much we value ground coverage on the team. So he decided to forego the Ice Spinner because he figured I have ice coverage anyway on the Penguin, over here, the Iron Bundle. So let me just get some ground coverage with the Stomping Tantrum. Smart play from Brady. But again, those are like 3 basic examples where like you get some variance with the Dragonite sets. But moving forward, again, it's taking the place of Roaring Moon on a lot of these teams because you don't get the 4 times weakness to Fairy. You get a little bit more bulk. especially with multi-scale. And again, you don't rely on speed control because you have the power of E-Speed, okay? And Terra Blast, Terra Flying from a Dragonite, it's going to do a lot of damage, right? Base 134 attack if you're Adamant Nature, especially after like Dragon Dance boost, it's actually really important. So there's the idea there. And then you get a little bit more utility with Tailwind. Not that Roaring Moon doesn't get Dragon Dance or Tailwind anyway, but, you know, just the value that you get with multi-scale and along with Extreme Speed is very, very valuable over there. So shoutouts to Dragonite, you know, doing really, really well. Everybody loves Dragonite. So it's a very common favorite Pokemon, and we're really glad to see it do well in a competitive format, right? Because in Sword and Shield just wasn't really used all that much. Had only very specific niches with like Aqua Jet into Colossal, but now finally Dragonite's really coming into its own, where it's just really, really displaying its dominance, and you know, it's good to see. All right, let's move on. Okay, another thing I do want to talk about that we can see a little bit more often now is, again, with this Palafin dominance, and again, it's the third straight regionals where it's like really doing well. It's on the winner's team. With like, this is like a typical kind of balancing that you'll see like with Palafin. So it's like good stuff with Arcanine and Mungus, and then instead of the bundle, now you're seeing a lot more Palafin, and the reason for that, it just applies like really good pressure, and you know, you're just able to reposition and pivot relatively well, and then once you come back in, you're just exerting so much pressure with Jet Punch along with the Mystic Water stuff, where you just like, it doesn't really matter if you have speed control or not, whether there's Tailwind or Trick Room, you just go for this base 60 Mystic Water stab move, and it just does so much damage with a base 160 attack that you can like not even have to max and just afford to go like a super bulky route. Is actually really impressive. So this is like something standard. If you had to like pick something like a balanced standard team, this is something that I would do. Roaring Moon, Flutter Mane, Iron Hands, Triple Paradox, along with Arcanine, Amoonguss, and Palafin. So like good stuff plus a Fire, Water, Grass core. This is very, very standard. Dragon Fairy, instead of its Steel type, you could put Iron Hands. If you really want the Steel type, you could put something like King Gambit over here. But this is something that's very, very standard. And again, if you just consider like what Palafin can do, like Jet Punch, Wave Crash, Haze, and then Protect, right? So the Haze, you're just able to remove Swords Dance boost, Dragon Dance boost, Nasty Plot boost, Dondozo boost, right? Haze is just extremely valuable. And then if you get Icy Winded, for example, by, you know, an opposing bundle, you can just haze all those debuffs and away, and then you're kind of just chilling. So something like this from the Knoxville Regionals, like here, like Lucapaz, right? So it's like a Roaring Moon, Flutter Mane, Arcanine, Amoonguss, Palafin, and then Iron Hands. That's very, very standard. And he's not the only one that's running this. This is, again, also very similar from Justin Tang, right? So it's basically the same kind of team, but there's a Gothitelle instead of the Roaring Moon, and then you're just able to play the Perish route. But again, 1 mon difference. And then if you go down here, outside of the top 8, but still within the top cut, you're going to find a little bit more of the same kind of thing. Here, like from Paul Chua, for example. Let's click his team. Yeah, same thing. So like Palafin, Mystic Water, Wave Crash, Haze, Jet Punch. The Flutter Mane is a Specs route, you know, just for a little bit more damage. Arcanine, you know, and Amoonguss defensive backbone, Iron Hands, and then Roaring Moon has Breaking Swipe, so a little bit more in terms of like damage mitigation over here from Paul. I really like Breaking Swipe on Roaring Moon. Makes a lot of sense. But again, this triple Paradox core with the good stuff, you know, and then just Arcanine and Amoonguss defensive backbone with Palafin rounding out that Fire, Water, Grass core. You're going to see this, again, continuing throughout the rest of Series 2, you know, the 1 month that we have left of it. And, you know, whichever regionals besides Charlotte is within that 1 month. I don't know off the top of my head, but yeah, that's pretty much what you're going to see. And again, with just like this offensive pressure that doesn't even care about speed control all that much, and then the utility that you get with Haze makes it a little bit more of a valuable Pokemon than the Iron Bundle, because you have, your bulk is pretty good, like base 100 HP, 97 defense, 87 special defense, you know, with the 0 to hero form. It's a really good Pokemon, and you know, it's nice to see something other than the bundle do really well. All right, so moving forward, let's take a look at some other stuff. All right, next kind of core I also want to discuss is the Talonflame Great Tusk cores, along with the Tyranitar Gothitelle Fairy type over here. So basically, these teams typically you have the Iron Bundle along with Tyranitar, the anti-meta version, not the anti-meta version, the anti-meta threat of the team. That's able to do well into a lot of those Trick Room matchups, especially the Indeedee Armor stuff. And then Gothitelle plus a Fairy type here. Normally you would find the Flutter Mane over here with either a Parasong kind of thing, or just simply with Choice Specs, you know, and then you just have 4 attacks. Or we do my version, which I gave to a couple buddies, one of them being Philip Cohen, who also competed in this regional, was able to go 6-3, get some CP out of the results. And you know, that kind of video is coming out in the next one after this one, where I invite Philip onto the channel just to come and talk about the team that we made and how he was able to pilot relatively well against some of those matchups. But again, with Sylveon here rather than the Fluttermane, the idea that I had, you know, with something like this is just to capitalize on Sylveon's bulk a little bit more than Fluttermane, because first of all, you still get yawn pressure over here. First of all, this is Throat Spray, and then you have Hyper Voice, and then you have yawn pressure. So what you're able to do is still trap things with the Gothitelle, and then just apply yawn with the Sylveon, and then just alternate your protects, and then, you know, they just fall asleep the following turn, and then you're just able to capitalize and just keep spamming Hyper Voice. And really the idea was just to make the Sylveon super bulky, and then just keep going for a bunch of damage, and then, you know, just from there just pick up some certain KOs off of just flat out trapping, so that this way they're unable to switch. But again, this is a hyper offensive core with Talonflame and Great Tusk. Along with that, you know, you're just able to go for Tailwind, go for Earthquake next to the Talonflame, and then the Bundle and Tyranitar do just come into specific matchups depending on what you're facing. But you have the trapping kind of thing with Gothitelle Sylveon leads. Then you have the Talonflame plus Sylveon, or Talonflame Great Tusk kind of thing. And then Tyranitar is just able to come into the back and, you know, just come in and, you know, just, you know, for certain matchups, just go for big damage. And also absorb big hits because you have the Assault Vest, and is able to do relatively well against a lot of the meta stuff. But you'll see this kind of team a lot. And if we go into some here, actually right here with Yodam's team, so he has the Fluttermane version, right? Basically same idea, Gothitelle with the Fluttermane. Again, there's no Perish here, but it's very standard with like Thunder Wave rather than Trick Room. We had Trick Room on ours. Then you have Talonflame, Great Tusk, Tyranitar, Iron Bundle, right? That's a very, very standard core that you'll see. And you see it a lot. And here, oh, here's a Houndstone team. That's actually kind of cool. But how about this one, right, with Benjamin Lee at 25th place. Again, Talonflame, Great Tusk, Iron Bundle. Then he has the Maushold here to support first of all, not only the Dragonite, but even the Goldango Nasty Plot stuff. So that's kind of cool. And then where do we go from here? Yeah, same thing here from Tolweb. I believe they have the same team, more or less. Yeah, they do. So there's another version of that. Then you have Joe's team, you know, without the Talonflame, of course, but still with a Great Tusk Trick Room kind of team. But it makes a lot of sense. And here's another. Oh, here's the snow version. Oh, this is like double weather, you know, with Obama Snow Bundle. I believe, is this like Blizzard spam? Yeah. Oh no, it's not. But but again, with the Sand team, oh, that's actually kind of cool. I did not notice that. But then you have the top cut results, and then same idea within the top 8. You have the Talonflame from Justin Karras, right? And yeah, I believe this is pretty much the same thing, right? All three of them built together. So the Fluttermane ideally is the better of the damage dealers. I just like the Sylveon's bulk a little bit more, but expect to still see this Talonflame, Great Tusk, Tyranitar kind of squad, and you know, it's gonna do well consistently just because of the multiple types of options that it presents, and the pressure that it has, and you know, it's just relatively bulky. And Gothitelle's a menace. Anytime you can trap and stop, you know, positioning is actually very, very good. So I'm glad to see Gothitelle have some great use in this meta at the moment. But yeah, let's keep on going. Okay, and now of course we have to address Dondozo, right? Time and time again, Dondozo, no matter the format, is still doing well. Dondozo's consistency is the name of this timestamp, because again, no matter what, you think it's going away because of all the paradox spawns, but in fact, it's just super consistent. And once again, I believe there are like 8 Dondozos within the top cut, right? So let's see, 6 and 7, that's 1. That's already 2 within the top 8. Then you go here, that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I believe there's one more here somewhere. Okay, so there's 7 Dondozos in the top cut. That's already a lot within the top 55. Again, just the way you can play it in terms of like the other 4 options has a lot of flexibility. You can always go like with Talonflame Tailwind support. This one's actually pretty cool from Enrique. He's got a screen setter with Grimmsnarl, then bulky Volcarona, of course, a supportive Volcarona, and then he's got Iron Hands and Goldango. So a very, very bulky core. Anyway, anytime you can put Dondozo behind screens, it's actually really, really convenient and really, really strong. So shout outs to that kind of combination. Then you can just build it with something like this with Talonflame Tailwind offense, where you just have aggressive options in the back. He's got the Glamour over here from Marcus. Then there's the Palmot stuff where you're just able to revive a potential dead ally here. So something like Tatsugiri if it faints, or even Dondozo if it faints. So there's the idea there with Talonflame. Okay, Ashton, he had a different kind of team where he's just going with the Tailwind on the Roaring Moon instead, rather than a Talonflame kind of thing. Then he has Trick Room on the Gardevoir, so two kinds of speed control options there, along with Icy Wind support from the Tatsugiri. So you don't even have to rely on Dondozo Tatsugiri. You're able to just use your Tatsugiri and just go for Icy Wind pressure anyway. And then you have Goldango, Iron Hands in the back potentially, right? And then Goldango is something that can benefit with either Trick Room or Tailwind, right? So there's the idea there. Again, just so many ways that you can play Dondozo. Even this one right here with Thomas and whatchamacallit over here. Who was the other guy that had it? Right here with Carson Comfort and Thomas. I believe they built together. They have the same team, but more or less with this Flamigo kind of team, where you just have Co-Star able to copy those boosts. And again, it's not Toxic Orb Tatsugiri. It's still a relatively consistent Focus Sash Tatsugiri, where you're just not taking all that damage per turn. But again, Goldango in the back end along with Maushold. That's actually pretty cool. So many different ways where you can use those 4 options behind Dondozo. But the fact of the matter is that it's still a reliable, consistent archetype that's always going to do well in this kind of format. All right, and it's not going away. You're going to see it in Charlotte 100%. Anytime you're going to see like a top 50 result, you're going to see about 8 or 10 Dondozos within the top cut. 100%. Mark my words. All right, so just be on the lookout for that. Let's go to the next topic. Okay, the other thing I also want to look at is actually just spotlighting Ceruledge. There's about 4 of them in the top cut, and I thought that was interesting, and I wanted to know why. And it just makes sense that it would just be placed on a lot of those Iron Hands teams. This is actually kind of what we did a little bit earlier in the format, where we placed like the Armourouge along with the Iron Hands, because what you're able to do is just really capitalize on this Flash Fire ability. Because oftentimes what you want to do to stop the Iron Hands is burn it, right? Go for like the Will-O-Wisp from the Arcanine stuff. And the thing is, you can like kind of counteract that by switching out into the Ceruledge and just quickly stealing a boost. Also, if you have like another like steel type on your team, you know, where the Arcanine is just going for Flare Blitz, you can swap into the Ceruledge and able to just take that. And then because you have like Bitter Blade, Shadow Sneak, Bulk Up, Potential, and then Protect, you can now bulk a lot of things. And then even like the Fluttermane, you can pick up. Is this Shadow Ball? I meant Shadow Sneak. Okay. Against like Fluttermanes, you know, you might say, oh, you're a Ghost type, you're weak to the Shadow Ball. But then remember, you have priority Shadow Sneak. And depending on your investment and your role, you can actually pick up that Fluttermane. Because, you know, if they're just straight 252 with choice specs, you have a decent role to pick up with the Shadow Sneak. After one bulk up, you do pick it up anyway. Bitter Blade is also just an OHKO straight up if you go like Adamant 252. So there's the idea there. But again, you're just able to nicely help out your Iron Hands and your other steel types, like maybe even a King Gambit or a Goldango. So for example, let's take a look at some of these teams. All right, so you didn't see any in the top 8, but that's okay. I believe John was the highest one with Ceruledge over here. John who? Yeah, here's again. So like, you know, just helping out Garchomp over here with the Ceruledge. Bitter Blade, Shadow Sneaks, Bulk Up, Protect with the Clear Amulet. So, you know, the Arcanine is going to have a little bit of a hard time trying to, you know, either burn the Garchomp or just going for like Flare Blitz stuff. So there's the idea there. And from here, if you just look at some of these other Ceruledge teams, like here from Z. So if you look at Z here, like his Great Tusk and his Dragonite, they don't want to take burns at all. And then his Goldango doesn't want to take a Flare Blitz. So if you're just able to pivot in your Ceruledge, then you can kind of do well against like the Arcanine stuff, which can kind of neuter this a little bit. Because, you know, Dragonite's multi-scale, so it is going to get intimidated. It has Terra Flying, so you can get burned. So, you know, the Ceruledge makes a lot of sense here from Z. So shoutouts to Z over there. And if I keep going down this list, I think there's another 1 or 2 that you might be able to find here. Yep, so from Brian, who's also named Clover on YouTube, not YouTube, on Twitter, who's got a Vivillon, which is something that we're going to talk about next. But again, same idea here. Here's the Iron Hands. You don't want to take a burn here. So if you're just able to pivot this in, especially against like Arcanine, it just does really, really well. So Ceruledge has that niche if you can find it. Because Arcanine is super meta, the Ceruledge just makes a lot of sense. But nice to see that over there. And here's another one from Jimmy. All right, so Jimmy again, there's the Iron Hands. There's the Palafin definitely don't want to take a burn there. So, you know, nice use over here with the Ceruledge to try and just offer that positioning just to help out some of these super meta strong physical attackers, because this is where a lot of his damage is going to be coming from anyway. So any type of Pokemon that you can use to protect them is also very much appreciated. Granted, he does have like the Focus Energy Hydreigon stuff over here, but still, like, you need a little bit more health than just the Hydreigon, and he's got it over here. But it's a very standard set with the Ceruledge on all these teams. It's just Clear Amulet with Bitter Blaze, Shadow Sting, Bulk Up, and Protect. And you know, it just makes a lot of sense, okay? So maybe we can see a little bit more usage heading into Charlotte. Not sure, it's tough to tell, but it does have its use. But, you know, at least you did see some of its niche role within this regional. All right, let's keep going. Okay, the other niche pick that I also want to look at is Vivillon. Like, holy cow, I saw a couple of these in Top Cut, and some even on teams that it did in Top Cut, it was still there, and I was wondering, what the heck is this? So then it actually has some really, really good uses. First of all, you do get Tailwind, okay? You do get Rage Powder, and you get Sleep Powder, for example. And not only that, I feel like these abilities, like, okay, look, Shield Dust, not affected by secondary effect of another Pokemon's attack. That's pretty good. Compound Eyes, accuracy multiplied by 1.3. Sleep Powder, hello, multiplied by 1.3, good accuracy. And then you have something, and then you have Friend Guard. So just like, you know, Maushold able to provide Friend Guard, like, these are all great support, but this is a very, very good supportive Pokemon. And, you know, you look at its stats, it's not that great, but it doesn't have to be great in terms of like offensive pressure. It's a supportive Pokemon. And if you look at the regions, there's a couple of teams that were using it. Let's look at Ben's team over here. All right, because Ben had a Vivillon over here. So this one's Compound Eyes, so a little bit more accurate Sleep Powders. You already have Spore from Brute Bonnet. And then over here, just like, again, with Sleep Powder, Rage Powder, Pollen Puff. So no taking advantage of the Friend Guard over here, and no Rage Powder. Oh, no, there is Rage Powder. You also have Pollen Puff here. Okay, so you can also heal, which is actually really convenient. And it's a stab move too. So it makes a lot of sense on teams like this where you can just heal like the Armourouge and the Iron Hands. So that's kind of cool. If we go down into Brian's team that we just saw with the Ceruledge, so this one's Friend Guard, Pollen Puff, Rage Powder, Tailwind, and Protect. So I guess what you can even do with a certain set is to just also go over like, you do need one attack, right? So maybe not all three of these. I feel like you got to give up something, and then, you know, you just have to run Pollen Puff here. But it makes a lot of sense if you're able to just provide like a defensive backbone with Friend Guard. You can take a lot of attacks. Like, can you imagine like Fluttermane and this thing, the Iron Bundle behind Friend Guard? They just can sit there, and normally attacks that would KO are not KOing, and then you just deal super effective damage with like the Life Orb or the booster, right? So it's super cool to see Vivillon be placed in a really, really nice supportive role where you can just make your Tailwind, not make your Tailwind, make your allies faster with Tailwind, provide bulk with Friend Guard, and then have redirection with Rage Powder. You know, Maushold cannot do that. Maushold does get Friend Guard, does get Follow Me, but it does not get Tailwind, and it does not get Sleep Powder. So if you're able to provide all those tools, that makes you a very, very good supportive Pokemon. I might even do like a separate video on Vivillon. It has its niche role, and if you're put on the right team, you can actually do really, really well. As of course, that's why these are called niche Pokemon. But it was super cool to see a couple of them in Top Cut, and maybe we might see a couple more in Charlotte. I can see some teams really, really utilizing them very, very well. Some mid-speed tier teams that can really take advantage of Tailwind along with the Friend Guard stuff. So yeah. Okay, the next thing I also wanted to look at was Garchomp's Resurgence of a little bit. So because, you know, with that ground typing from Garchomp, you know, you're just able to do a lot of damage into stuff like Arcanine, for example, or even like the Iron Hands. And if you have the Clear Amulet, the Arcanine actually doesn't even bother you, especially if you're like going for the Terra Fire option, and you know, you're just going to resist a lot of the fairy stuff from the Fluttermane. So something like Earthquake, then you have Rock Slide, that's where are you? Rock Slide, and then just like Swords Dance set, and then even Protect over here is actually relatively standard. I've seen some Assault Vest, I've seen some Choice Scarf sets, but this is something that's like, again, a very, very much a mainstay of Garchomp, even back in Series 1. Again, the Fluttermane can't really touch you. The Goldango is now at your mercy. And then not only that, but like the Iron Hands is going to have a little bit more difficulty. And then the Arcanine can't touch you, can't burn you, especially if you're Terra Fire. You can't get intimidated because you have the clear amulet, so it's just like a really good Pokemon. Now the Roaring Moon can outspeed you, but this is why some of those Garchomps have the Choice Scarf, and then they're also running like Dragon Claw. So if we can just take a look at some of the Knoxville regional teams, especially the one in top 8, right over here from Aaron Clemens. So if you just take a look at his Garchomp team, so this is Dragon Claw, Earthquake, Swords Dance, Protect, standard set, but with the goggles rather than the amulet. So he's figuring, you know, if I'm gonna get intimidated, I'm just gonna Swords Dance, go back to +1 anyway, and then you know you can just Earthquake next to the Murkrow over here, for example. So that's one kind of thing. Then if you just keep going down the list and look at some of the other Garchomps in Top Cut, there's one over here again from Alberto. We've seen this team already before. You're just able to Earthquake next to the Corviknight. You have screens to protect you. Here's the Choice Scarf set that we were talking about with Dragon Claw and Stomping Tantrum for single target ground coverage. Makes a lot of sense there. Then John Hu over here, you know, again, able to Earthquake next to the Rotom. That was something that was seen in Series 1, along with Bulldoze for speed control. That was actually kind of cool. So 3 types of ground moves over here. I don't know how much John Hu was clicking, you know, other than, you know, maybe the Tantrum and then the Bulldoze Rock Slide stuff. I don't know how often he was clicking all 3 ground moves, but makes a lot of sense that you can also get speed control with the Bulldoze. So that's actually kind of cool. Then if you keep going down the list, I think there's like 1 or 2 more here. Yeah, so here's one from Cameron. Looks like almost a Series 1 team, right? With the Corviknight and Gyarados Arcanine stuff. Then you have the Iron Hands and then the Fluttermane. So again, with Stomping Tantrum, Dragon Claw, Swords Dance, Protect. No Earthquake, you know, which is a little surprising considering you have a Corviknight and a Gyarados on the team where, you know, you're just able to Earthquake next to them consistently. But, you know, to each their own. But again, with the Life Orb set, you're just able to put out a little bit more damage along with the Swords Dance. You know, so there's something there. Then if you keep going down, I think there's at least 1 more Garchomp team here. Actually, no, there isn't. But if you go down into the past the top 55, there's actually even a couple more Garchomp teams here. So for example, Ian's team, we've seen this team before with the Drifblim. So there's a clear amulet set with the Swords Dance. Then over here down with Len. Again with the Gyarados Corviknight stuff, and then here's T-Tar, so this is probably Sandvale, and it is. There's the Fluttermane, there's the Amoonguss, so it makes a lot of sense here. Dragon Fairy Steel Core, you know, with the Fluttermane and the Corviknight, and then the Corviknight is of course Terra Dragon, you know, just able to resist the fire and the electric weakness, so it makes a lot of sense here. But again, you can see a lot of Garchomp's teams that are starting to rise yet again. The ground coverage is very good, as we mentioned, so I expect to see a little bit more. You know, heading into Charlotte, but it has this niche. I would expect, you know, maybe, so there was like what, 4 in the top 55 and then 2 more like within like the top 60, so maybe you might even see like maybe 10 more Garchomps in you know, heading into Charlotte. But yeah, Garchomp's a good Pokemon. Definitely it was always good. Just people just needed to figure out and say, hey, this is actually still pretty good even though Series 1 is over. But I expect to see a little bit more Garchomps heading into Charlotte. Okay, the Maushold teams, of course, are still running around and they're going crazy, especially if they're next to Annihilate here. So Maushold sets nowadays, you know, they're dropping Population Bomb. Of course, this is a thing that was started maybe like a couple weeks ago, but the friend card is actually very valuable, especially next to frailer Paradox Pokemon where they're just able to survive now, especially if you consider like Fluttermane and then the Iron Bundle stuff. These are Pokemon that can definitely benefit from the Friend Guard because they're kind of frail. Like this one on the special defensive end, you know, not so much HP. And then the Fluttermane, of course, the HP and the physical bulk is just like paper. So there's the idea there. And depending on its 3rd move, if it's next to Annihilate, this is probably beat up. If it's not next to Annihilate, then it's up in the air. It could be like either Encore, Helping Hand, Taunt, these kinds of things, but you'll always see like Safety Goggles, Friend Guard, Super Fang, you know, it can miss, but it can deal like half the target's current health, so you can kind of make up for your quote-unquote lack of damage with this. But if you just take a look at some of these Knoxville teams within like either top 8 or even like top 55, you can see something here. So interestingly, there's only 1 in the top 8. This one was the Dondozo team, but I saw some other interesting Maushold teams. Even in this one, like Marco's team with the Dragonite stuff. So like, you know, Tailwind support with Follow Me, Helping Hand, Super Fang. This is pretty good. Again, here's the Fluttermane, here's the Iron Bundle. These are Pokemon that definitely benefit from the Friend Guard, as well as the Tusk and the King Gambit. Very bulky Pokemon. So super consistent option here. Then if you keep going down the list, here's Darsh's team. That's actually pretty good. Z's team, again, here's the Maushold. Baby Doll Eyes is another good tech move just to reduce damage. And again, there's no Arcanine on this team, so this is like your active form of Arcanine. But again, you can see here's the Goldango, here's the Dragonite. I almost said Eisen over there. But again, you're able to just set up your nasty plot here, you know, with behind the Friend Guard, and then the Dragonite safety. And you combine Multi-Scale and Friend Guard. That first attack that Dragonite goes for is actually just not going to do that much damage. Then if you go down over here, Benjamin Lee's team. So this is also another one with like Talonflame, Great Tusk, and there's Dragonite Goldango yet again. And then just to go for a few more. Oh, Olivia's team. Yeah, this is a pretty cool team actually. So here's the Tailwind support from the Dragonite. Makes a lot of sense. Here's the Iron Bundle Fluttermane stuff. This is actually really, really cool. And then you might even consider Dragon Dance in this kind of team. But, you know, Tailwind is actually really nice with the bundle and the Fluttermane. Just so that you can go for a little bit more bulk and just sacrifice some of your maybe speed. But yeah, there's the idea there. Makes a lot of sense. I really like Olivia's team. It's really cool. Then over here, if you go to Benjamin's team, so Maushold again with Super Fang beat up. So here's the one with the Annihilate, and then just again Iron Bundle, and then no Fluttermane this time, but you do have the Roaring Moon and the Goldango over here. That can also greatly benefit from the Friend Guard, especially with like weakness policy over here. Just makes a lot of sense over here. So Maushold Cores, definitely a mainstay with something like this. Either you find him on the Great Tusk squads with like Dragonite, you'll either find him with like Fluttermane, Iron Bundle, or you're just going to find them with the Annihilate stuff, right? So makes a lot of sense. They're not going away. They're very, very good, and you'll definitely see a lot more of them moving forward. Okay, and that's pretty much it, right? So more or less the same kinds of teams that you're gonna find like heading into Charlottesville. I still think again those Maushold teams are still very, very good, especially with like Dragonite, Fluttermane, and the Iron Bundle. You're still gonna see like the Parish Strat teams with Gothitelle, Fluttermane stuff. Great, Talonflame, Great Tusk. Those teams are still gonna be there. You're gonna see Triple Paradox, good stuff with like Arcanine, Amoonguss, and either the Iron Bundle or the Palafin, depending on the person. That's always like relatively consistent. That's just a balanced kind of team. You might see like some interesting niche picks, like for example those Vivillon teams. You might see Iron Jugulus be explored a little bit more now that a couple people have done well with it, namely Wolf Glick and Marcus Statler over at Bochum. You might see some stuff like Baxcalibur, Dragonite stuff still be relatively consistent. That one, the previous regional, that's also going to be interesting. Dondozo still not going away, still very much consistent. Garchomp usage might rise a little bit more now, especially with that clear amulet set. Dragonite completely dominating right now as far as like a very, very strong dragon option. Roaring Moon still very, very good, especially with like Dragon Dance sets. Maybe even Hard Trickum can make a play. A lot of them have done relatively well, but not too many of them are like top cutting. They're just like outside the top cut, one win away, and I feel like that's probably where they're still gonna end up. But there might be a couple that might be able to squeak by depending on the player and the matchups that they find in the regionals. But Hard Trickum's still pretty good. I still think it's an interesting archetype, just because it's a little bit too linear for tournament play, but still does very, very well. So I expect it to still see a good amount of them, and then from there, just very, very standard, consistent stuff with like the Fire, Water, Grass Cores, Dragon Fairy, Steel. Garganical, not so much within this tour. There's still a few running around, but again, it's still something that you still have to prepare for and prep for, especially whether it's like Terra Poison or Terra Ghost. So that's still something that you want to watch out for. But overall, I think you're still going to get some good variants of teams. Torkoal teams are starting to rise a little bit more now. But the problem again with Torkoal is that you're also boosting the other opponent's Paradox Pokemon, especially if they have the photosynthesis stuff, right? So again, use with caution, but it's still very, very good depending on how you want to play the Torkoal. All right, that's going to be it for now. Again, if you're trying to go to one of these regionals and if you're interested in coaching, definitely check out coaching on the channel. Tier 3 sub, it's in the video description, in the comment section, or every single video has a join button. Click that, and then you're able to join with the Tier 3 sub, where you and I, we sit down in a Discord call, we hash out all the EVs, we build a team from scratch, and if we have time, we even test it out a little bit on the Showdown ladder. So if you're interested in that, look into it. Or if you have a team already and just need me to look at it and fix it up a little bit, that's a Tier 2 sub to the channel. That's called Team Fixing. where you get to send me a PokePaste either via Twitter or via Discord. I take a look at it and I make adjustments and I send it right back to you, within reasonable time. All right. So if that's something you're interested in, it's tier 2, same as tier 3 location wise. Video description, comment section, or click the join button with every video. All right. That's gonna do it for now. We'll be back with another video in the next one, guys. Peace out and have a good night.